this is Rose Gold, and today we're going to be getting back into what if Goku and Vegeta fused earlier. Now, I need to announce some things. I'm going to change my name to Tenitsu at 900 subs, and I'll give away Nitro at 1000, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, for part 2, I want y'all to hit 10 likes, but without further ado, let's just get straight into part 2. Now, for a quick recap, we left the last part off with Goku, who had actually taken his heart medicine, meeting an imperfect Cell who was able to run away and then proceeded to become Perfect Cell. But for now, let's just get into the interesting parts. As Cell transformed into his perfect form, he quickly dashed off to absorb every human being in the area, but he sensed a presence near him. How odd, he thought. He was the only bear, right? But it seemed another being with two energies at once was flying toward him. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a figure attempted to knee Cell right in the stomach, confusing Cell. Wasn't this the being with the two energies at once? Why was it attacking him? As Cell flew back a little to see who it was, attempting to attack him, and there stood the figure with black hair, a black and golden jacket, and a very characteristic confident smirk plastered on its face. So this was the fusion of Goku and Vegeta. Cell smirked as he saw Gogeta in front of him. Cell was currently at a power level of 7 billion and was continuing to grow, and Gogeta was only at a power level of 650 million. So when Cell suddenly flew toward Gogeta with a punch, he had no way to dodge, and as he was punched in the stomach, he sweat out a massive amount of blood as he was flung to the ground, crumbling the ground, leaving a massive crater. But Cell suddenly stopped. This was no fun. His sane instinct kicked in, and he shot at Gogeta, who was lying on the ground, pretty injured from a single punch from Cell. Goku, Vegeta, you have 9 days to train, then fight me. He laughed and flew away, and after a few minutes, Gogeta defused back into Goku and Vegeta, who were both pretty injured from one punch alone. They needed to become much stronger. Much stronger. But Vegeta smirked a little. He felt that limitless power, limitless potential once more, and he knew he needed to feel it again. He was calming down about the intensity of his almost fanaticism about the fusion, but he still wanted to fuse again. It was one of the best feelings that a Saiyan could dream of. Suddenly a boy with purple hair appeared in front of him. It was Trunks, who then proceeded to fly back carrying both Goku and Vegeta, of course future Trunks. When they arrived back at Master Roshi's place, they proceeded to tell everyone about the very large threat of Cell. And suddenly the TV, which was showing a fitness program earlier, which Master Roshi was watching staring at the ladies, a little bit of blood coming out of his nose, suddenly switched to another channel, in which Cell appeared.
諸君たちの代表選手が負けたら次の選手と交代するというやり方だ。
The crew was shocked, but suddenly Piccolo heard a voice. The voice of Kami, who he thought had died, but had apparently survived, and now told him to appear on his lookout right away, which he did, letting the others talk about what they should do. When Piccolo appeared at Kami's lookout, there stood Dende with a somber look on his face, and Kami, who walked over to Piccolo and put a hand on his shoulder, telling him, "Piccolo, you have become a respectable man." He stopped for a second and then continued, "And now I have decided. Earth doesn't need me anymore. I was a guardian, but that is not what the Earth needs now. What Earth needs now is a fighter." Piccolo nodded, his face turning somber as he realized what was about to happen. And he nodded. Out of nowhere, the two were engulfed in a white light, which blinded anyone who looked there, and as it disappeared, there stood the nameless Namekian, now named Piccolo, of course, with an incredible power level of 7 billion, which, while it wasn't that much against Cell, would still be helpful to defeating the bio-android. Back at Master Roshi's place, they decided what they would do. They would go into the time chamber and train, but there was quite a big change in plans from the original. This time, Trunks, Gohan, and Piccolo would be going into the time chamber together, and Goku and Vegeta would go in together afterward. "Grab onto my shoulder," Goku told the group, who all did as they were asked, and grasped his shoulder, and suddenly Goku placed 2 fingers on his forehead, and they all appeared on the lookout suddenly, meeting Piccolo there. Piccolo nodded at them, and Goku told him about the plan. "So you, Gohan, and Trunks will be going into the time chamber for a day." And so on, as he explained everything about it. Suddenly, Bulma appeared and handed them all special training suits, as we saw in the original, which they all put on, except for Piccolo, who didn't want to put on anything that Vegeta would put on. Then Trunks, Gohan, and Piccolo walked into the time chamber and began to train, whilst Goku and Vegeta prepared for their turn in the time chamber, as they began to train on the ground in the gravity chamber. The next day, out stepped Gohan. He was a good amount taller and was also a lot more powerful. Behind him came Trunks, and behind Trunks came Piccolo. They were all a lot stronger compared to both Goku and Vegeta, who were both at the base power level of 8 million, as they got a Zenkai boost, as their base power levels were the following: Piccolo at number 1 at 7 billion, Trunks at 150 million, and Gohan at 150 million as well. Goku patted his son on the back and told him, "Good work, Gohan," and gave him a smile, which Gohan returned, as he then began to fly home with Piccolo and Trunks, who would be staying the night at Goku's place, and would train there. In the hyperbolic time chamber, Goku and Vegeta were already hard at work sparring with each other, and so we skip ahead a few hours. Goku and Vegeta looked a ton more buff in their Super Saiyan form suddenly. They had discovered not just Grade 2 but Grade 3, making them even more muscular and incredibly powerful, but also incredibly slow, and Goku knew this can't be the full power of the Super Saiyan. There must be a key to unlocking its full potential, and suddenly it clicked. Goku shouted at Vegeta, "Vegeta, stop fighting for a minute!" And Vegeta was now confused, but stopped, and fell back into his base form, but Goku told him, No, don't go back into your base. Stay in your regular Super Saiyan form. I think I found the key to mastering this form, and that he did, as he felt a burst of power coming from within. Super Saiyan Grade 4 was much more powerful, giving a 60 times increase to power, so Goku and Vegeta proceeded to train their asses off the full 24 hours, and then ate some horribly cooked food, which was cooked by Goku and Vegeta together, and they struggled quite a bit to make it even edible. And then they came out of the hyperbolic time chamber's door. Their presence was underwhelming at first. It seemed they had actually gotten weaker, but Piccolo realized what they were doing and whispered to them, "You're suppressing your power levels, aren't you?" Goku laughed and nodded, then proceeded to tell everyone how they had done it, how they had mastered Super Saiyan and increased their power levels so much. Speaking of power levels, let's check in on everyone's power levels. Piccolo is still at the front in terms of base power levels at 7 billion. Goku and Vegeta are both at equal base power levels of 200 million. Gohan and Trunks both at 150 million. Although Trunks only knew grade 2 and Gohan grade 3, so they were pretty much below Goku and Vegeta by a very good amount. Now they had 7 days still left for their training, and Goku decided it'd be best to stay with his family for this time. So he took Gohan back to his house, and then told him a simple thing: no matter what you do, stay in Super Saiyan. It's the one way to master it. Then he smiled at Gohan before telling him, "Anyways, come on now, we'll catch a massive fish for dinner. Chichi will be really happy if we do it before noon." Gohan nodded, transformed, and smiled as well as he and Goku dashed out of the front door and jumped into the lake, both catching an absolutely ginormous fish which they carried back to the house, where Chichi almost had a heart attack when she saw Gohan's golden hair. Now we skip ahead 7 days. Goku and Gohan did some light sparring, but nothing much. Vegeta actually spent some time with Trunks for once, and actually became a better father. It was clear both Goku and Vegeta rubbed off on each other every time they fused. Goku became a little more analytical and smarter, while Vegeta became more caring, and in general became a better father. In general, both Goku and Vegeta turned into pretty good fathers, but now they had to leave their wives and for Vegeta to leave his child behind, and walk to the arena. Gohan was terrified of the fight, but both Goku and Vegeta had a serious glare as they both carried a small bag of senzu beans in their pockets as they stepped out to the exact coordinates Cell told them about earlier. There stood Cell, awaiting their appearance, and suddenly his eyes darted up to them. He was quite surprised how weak they seemed. They're in their Super Saiyan form, but they're only at a power level of 100 million? This was going to be so easy. Their powers were laughable, so he laughed loudly but didn't say anything. "Alright, who wants to go first?" and said, "You." And suddenly someone said, "You, creature, shall be defeated by the great Mr. Satan." But before he could finish his sentence, he was pushed aside by Cell and was sent flying, causing everyone's face to drop, especially those who were recording this with the camera. As Cell laughed again, he asked, "No one? Really?" And completely out of nowhere, Gohan's very shaky hand was in the air as he walked onto the stage and suddenly powered up to his full power, that being 9 billion in his perfected Super Saiyan state. But Cell was sadly above that now, at a 10 billion, but he was shocked at his sudden power increase and left himself open for an attack right into the gut by Gohan, which surprised the other Z fighters. Goku smiled and so did Vegeta, but he tried to hide it, and the other Z fighters screamed in surprise and glee as spit flew out of Cell's mouth, but he quickly recovered. and this time he was more wary of Gohan, so the next attack of the half Saiyan was dodged with relative ease. I mean, he overpowered Gohan by a power level of 1 billion more, so he was doing very well against Gohan, and suddenly he punched Gohan right in the face, and the teen was thrown into the ground, causing Gohan a ton of pain as he was pretty injured by the beatdown he was suffering from Cell. The confident smile on everyone's face quickly turned to horror as suddenly Cell picked Gohan up by the head and thrust his right hand right through the boy's chest, killing him instantly. Goku's cage was simply empty as he stared at the lifeless body of his son, and Chi-Chi passed out back at home and everything was silent. Until a bright light blinded everyone, and engulfed in the white light stood Gogeta. But this time there was no smirk on his face, but a face of absolute pure rage as he let out a scream. "I'm gonna kill you, Cell!" His power level now at 24 billion, but it was shooting up rapidly as suddenly his hair turned golden. His power level now at a 1.2 trillion. But he wasn't stopping there as his rage continued to build up. I'll never forgive you! And with a sudden burst of energy engulfing him, Gogeta now, in Super Saiyan 2, flew towards Cell, absolutely destroying half his body with a single punch. His power level was now at 2.4 trillion, and his anger was so great the entire area shook just because of his presence. The anger didn't just come from Goku's side. Vegeta had spent a good amount of time with Gohan as well, and started to care for the fellow Saiyan. And seeing a fellow Saiyan being murdered, it angered him. Sal was absolutely shocked at the power of this fusion and tried to knee him in the gut whilst he was next to him, but Gogeta came behind him and punched him again, causing his lower half to explode with the impact of just a punch alone. This pain was agonizing, but he was able to heal and get a nice Senka boost out of it, as well, now at 12 billion, but Gogeta wasn't stopping. He punched Cell again, this time punching off his entire lower body, until finally stomping on Cell's head, completely annihilating the bio android. Not even a trace of the android could be found anywhere, but even if it would, Gogeta made sure that he'd never be able to regenerate as he threw a ki blast, completely exploding the arena. With his rage still building, he lusted for Cell to come back. He wanted to murder him again, but suddenly Gogeta defused, leaving Goku and Vegeta unconscious from the power drain. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this part. I sure hope you did, but without stretching this out further, this was Rose Gold, and I am out.